As the fighting continues between US, Israel on one side and Iran on the other side, to talk about what really have we witnessed over the past 3 weeks, we have with us a very special guest, former Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Birendra Singh Dhanoa, retired, is with us. Thank you so much for speaking to Times Now, sir. And let me begin by asking you about the offensive in Iran and the Iranian response in the Gulf neighborhood. Do you think the Americans saw it coming? The attack on the GCC allies has given, in fact, the same allies who they have given security guarantees to. How do you think all of this has played out over the last 3 weeks?
You see, whenever you start a conflict, you have a desired end state. And you decide that what you want to do. After all, you're doing military operations. You're putting lives at risk. What do you want to do? So what was their desired end state? And then you have a red team. The red team decides what the enemy is going to do. He's not going to fight in your terms, on your terms. He's going to fight what he's strong in. And you know, what is the... In case of Iran, it did not take, like Iraq, it did not take on US one-on-one. Because if it takes on US one-on-one, it will not survive. So what is it doing? It is taken on the Gulf states, who are much weaker. Okay, and in Gulf states also, it is not that he's obliterated them or done debilitating damage on any particular infrastructure. He's carried out strikes which have got nuisance value and which carry headlines, because obviously, everybody in the news these days, you are only projecting outliers. What is the main crux of the thing is the Iran nuclear capability has been finished. Okay, missile and drone capability has been hit very badly. Okay, solid fuel missile production must have seems to have totally finished. Okay, but to hit this, they had to go through the Iranian Air Force, Air Defense and the Navy. All three are gone. Americans are flying over them at their free will. But can you stop the nuisance value? Iran, more than 40% of Iran is in the hills.
Right.
You break one tunnel, there will be some other tunnel that you don't know about. He'll pull out some weapons from there and fire. Will those weapons do debilitating damage on the Gulf countries? The answer is no. But will those weapons do damage which will carry, catch news headlines? Definitely they will do. So this is something I'm very surprised that, when they started this whole thing, they didn't cater for this. I'm very surprised because you see, even in India, when we have a VA or a VP like oil refinery or something, there are 3 layers of defense. The first layer is, of course, the interceptor aircraft, which goes and intercepts the thing. The second layer is the surface-to-air missile. And the third layer is air defense guns. Okay, when a cheap thing like a drone is coming across, you don't shoot it down with a fighter or you don't shoot it down with a missile.
Right.
You get it down with air defense guns. You see what happened in Operation Sindoor. How many drones came across? Now, why are Iranian drones successful against the Gulf countries and Pakistani drones were not successful against India? This is one question you need to ask.
Absolutely.
Obviously, because we have got systems, you may call them obsolete, but we have got air defense systems which cater for it. I'm very surprised as to how the Gulf countries, VAs and VPs, were not protected by the 3-tier defense. I mean, they must have had 2 tiers, but the 3rd tier, the drones are getting.
Right. So you're saying that we are, as a country, going by the experience of Operation Sindoor, far better placed to be protected against this kind of warfare, drone warfare in the future.
We are better placed than the Gulf countries.
Right.
Not US and Israel. I'm not comparing ourselves with them.
Sure.
As compared to the Gulf countries.
Right. Let me also take up from what you have said as far as the offensive on Iran is concerned. And you've also been quoted saying that Iran claiming about the downing of the F-35, etc. is part of a propaganda war where Iran is actually displaying its nuisance value, which you just mentioned, because in terms of physical casualties, neither Americans or Israelis have suffered much. There are some reports, though, that including the MQ Reaper, etc., there are, of course, about 14 to 15 aircraft that US has suffered losses of. Has Iran done enough to frustrate America and to, in fact, in that sense, look at a quick resolution or a quick off-ramp in that sense?
I am not aware of these 14 or 15 losses that you are talking about. All that I am aware, the refuelers collided with each other. And this F-35 has been hit. And F-35 has been hit after about 6,000 odd sorties. They've got one. I've said that 0.0166% loss. Even if that aircraft was lost, and if it is landed, then that is not a loss. So what I'm trying to say is Iran has not been able to see when you carry out air defense, your aim is to stop the other person from achieving its objective.
Right.
See what happened in Sindoor. We achieved our objectives. The Pakistan Air Force could not stop us from achieving our objective. We hit them everywhere. Entire Pakistani air defense failed. Okay, so similarly, the Iranian air defense has failed.
Right.
Whether they've shot 1, 2, or the outliers, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't mean Iran has been successful. Iran will grab headlines because nobody expects Iran to do anything. So if it shoots one, also we'll make big headlines because we never expected it to shoot even one. Militarily, Iran has not been successful in its campaign against the United States or Israel. In its nuisance value, it has been successful in grabbing the headline, making the life of everybody miserable, including not getting gas cylinders there. But what I'm trying to tell you is, nuisance value they have succeeded. I'm very surprised because this was not catered for when they started the air operation, and especially the Gulf country. Pakistanis are advising them. I don't know what the hell advice they have given to them.
What do you make then of President Trump's offers for peace, the overtures that they will not attack the energy infrastructure, they will not attack civilian infrastructure, and Iran completely denying that there is any kind of back channel talks or talks with the regime going on?
I am not aware on the the diplomatic level of engagement between Iran and the United States. So I will not be able to comment on that. All that I want to say is what is the desired end state? If the desired end state was change of regime, then you need boots on the ground. I've said in all my interviews.
Right.
Okay, without boots on the ground, you can't do it. Bangladesh, we had boots on the ground, we liberated Bangladesh. Iraq, they had boots on the ground, they overthrew Saddam. In Afghanistan, the Northern Alliance was fighting for them, so they took out the Taliban. In Libya, the rebels were fighting for them, they took out Gaddafi. In Syria, again, the Kurds and rebels were fighting for them, they took out Assad. So somebody has to fight for you if you want to do a regime change. Second is behavioral change. I think now, and hopefully so, President Trump is asking for a behavioral change, that you behave yourself and we'll call it off. I think that is a very good, in my book, in my opinion, it's a very good suggestion.
Right. But very important point that you made on boots for ground, because we've been debating this for the past 3 weeks, whether Trump will take that plunge or not. One of the aspects that has been discussed, though, is the kind of domestic opposition that Trump faces in the US. In light of that, do you think he will take that plunge or will he stop short? Because this has been a very sensitive issue in the past as well in the US.
You see, what is the threat to the US? If you are directly hitting the United States, like Pearl Harbor or 9/11, they will not hesitate to put boots on the ground. They will not bat an eyelid to put boots on the ground. But you are not hitting the United States directly. You are hurting their interest worldwide. Then they have to take a call. Because after all, it will result in casualties. Will they accept that or not accept that? That is the call that they have to take. It's a political decision by the United States.
Right.
But if you hit the US, 100% you will get boots on the ground.
Right. In terms of strategy, in the way that this war is being fought, of course, US and Israel have very close ties. There's so much of area in which they have cooperation and, similarity in terms of objectives. But do you also see some amount of dissonance between the two countries? Because it seems that Netanyahu is very keen on regime change. He's now going to push Trump into doing something that may backfire. And even when South Powers happened, for instance, Trump said that we didn't know about this. What do you make of that?
I don't think, first of all, they are the closest allies. Okay. You can, they are like conjoined twins. You can't. Even amongst allies, there may be some points of disagreement. But I think generally, you see, now let us look at it holistically. What was the requirement of Iran? Iran is sitting thousands of kilometers away from Israel. Israel ने उनका क्या किया है? Israel is not saying that I'm going to destroy you, nothing. उसके पीछे पड़े हुए हैं. I mean, and for what reason? See, you have deprived your own population. Look at the economic indicators of Iran today. Look at the inflation rate. Look at their forex reserves. Look at the number of people below the poverty line. And they are taking on unnecessary. So Israel feels that Iran poses an existential threat to them. So Israel will definitely require, their dream is always of a regime change. But then who's going to fight for them? Somebody is required to fight. No? See, and then the second one, timing, when the protests were going on in the beginning of January, that is the time you should have hit. Na? You should have hit the Revolutionary Guard. You should have hit police people coming out to stop the protest. Unko maar dena tha. No, timing hota hai. Okay, now all the people who are protesting, they must be in jail. Oh, now you are hitting them. So who's going to protest? I mean, who's going to come out and protest in your favor?
True. True. But one aspect that has been discussed, has been that if Iran has managed to strike Dhanoa in Israel, what does it say about its own target capabilities? Also, Israel's anti-drone and anti-missile systems, because the Iron Dome, while it has a stellar reputation, as we all know, how has Iran managed to penetrate or overwhelm this?
See, it is not overwhelm. Overwhelm means 10 missiles have hit Dhanoa. One has hit somewhere close to that and not directly hit the reactor. Okay. See, I have said in the previous interview, one swallow does not make a summer. Okay. And there is nothing known as 100%. In statistics, 99.99 means what? In thousands of missiles, some will still get through. Even if you say sigma, some 2, 3, 30, 40 will go through in a million. Okay. So there is nothing known as 100%. So some will get through. Okay. It doesn't mean. See, did Iran do debilitating damage on Dhanoa and they've got a missile capable to do, the answer to that is no. Did one missile go through? Of course, it will go through. It will never happen that, nothing will go through. There is nothing known as 0% in statistics.
Right. What role do you perceive Russia and China are playing here exactly as far as Iran's defense is concerned? Perhaps intelligence supply, decisions or details regarding coordinates. What is the role and the coordination that you see as far as Russia and China are concerned?
I don't know at the higher level what is going on between the two countries. But if I was Russia and China, I will definitely watch this war very, very closely. Because, the cutting edge of US and Western weapons are operating. And what have they done? What have they been able to achieve? What have they not been able to achieve? See, what have they been able to see? China is also mountains, like Iran. China is also mountains. From Mao's time, they have built big, big tunnels inside. In fact, they hide squadrons of aircraft inside mountains. Okay. So, and Iran has hidden its missiles in mountains, drones in mountains. 100% China will be watching as to how many, what have they been able to destroy? What all can they see? Can they only see the entrance of the tunnel? Or can they see also the ventilation shaft and send the bomb through that? What is the level of US capability? I think this will be of great interest to China. Whether they'll share intelligence, I think they will be. After all, they're facing the common, I will not say enemy, common threat, you can say.
Right.
But whether China will risk its trade with the United States to support Iran, zero. I don't think so.
Right. When you talk about the nuisance value of Iran, do you believe that apart from the domestic pressure that President Trump perhaps has, America's own allies in the Middle East are the ones who are going to bring some pressure to bear on Trump to de-escalate? Because it's not just the Gulf countries. In fact, even EU has not been exactly on the same page as US over the past few weeks.
I just read a New York Times article today morning. I believe there are 500 tankers which are not moving, which are sitting inside the Gulf of Hormuz, on that side of the Gulf of Hormuz. So, I don't know. And 17 of these vessels which were coming out have been struck. So, it has played hell into this thing. And I believe the figures are like this, that is about 20% of the world's oil comes from there. Even if you take the pipeline, take out, it is about 10%. So, it is affecting economically the Arab countries a lot. So, will they put pressure for an early ceasefire? Most probably, yes. Okay. But in my book, I think they were not prepared. This is stupidity.
Right. Now, there are also some in Pakistan, such as Abdul Basit, who have reportedly warned that any interference by the West across the border would mean Pakistan taking out its military frustrations on Indian metros. What do you think of this kind of positioning coming in from Pakistan side?
I don't think so. Pakistan, Indian metros means what? You think Pakistan is going to fire missiles at our metros and start a war with us? I don't think so. It is just some crazy character who's opening his mouth. They have seen what happened in Sindhu. Yeah. And the last time they had an engagement with us. Technologically, they are behind us.
All right. Dhanoa, thank you so much for taking the time out, sir, and speaking to us here at Times Now.
Thank you so much.
The News Hour at 10. We'll be right back.